do it.
So how are you doing, Trent?
So, very well. Thanks so much for letting me hop on and be a part of the show. This is kind of exciting.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat to have an outlet to express our views, thoughts, beliefs, with other like-minded people, I guess, too, that are, searching to expand their awareness or expand their consciousness and sort of give the idea to look at circumstances from different perspectives. So thanks again. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I was just telling Ansley we're like the Three Musketeers here. I'm the one that's been doing this so long. I'm kind of like sick of it and just like, meh. Like, it's almost, I just make really light of everything or whatever. You're a little bit the new kid on the block, and Ansley was just sort of born and raised into this, but is kind of making it her own thing now. Like, really actualizing these teachings. We're all, like, big fans of Bashar. And, yeah, I think it's interesting to bring the dynamic of our personalities together because we all have really strong personalities.
All right, great. So Ansley, do you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you came to, or how you discovered yourself to be on a spiritual path and have a type of shift in consciousness, as I like to call it?
Yeah, and just tell a little bit about yourself in general, like what you do now, what you've done, and how you got there.
Okay. I'll try to keep it somewhat brief. Thank you, Trent.
Well, we have plenty of time. We have 40 minutes, right?
Yeah, I think we might even have unlimited. So,
yeah, let's just let the universe.
Let's hope. If not, we can start another one. But yeah, I think we do have unlimited. I was checking my pro account. I think it needed 24 hours too.
Cool.
But yeah, so yes, I was definitely born into a metaphysical household, but it's kind of like, I feel like metaphysics and spirituality is a bit like snowboarding. You could sit there and you could study the physics and the engineering of the snowboarding park, but not everybody can go compete in the Olympics and do 540s and actually demonstrate it. And so yeah, I definitely grew up with a lot of kind of knowledge of it, but I tended to really only apply it when it was life or death or something really really extreme, like when I was skiing. If I got injured, I would try to have some kind of a metaphysical transformation or healing and not have to really get mesmerized by the fear or the pain or anything like that. Tried to kind of apply it to my school stuff, and I was a good student for that reason, I think. So I think it definitely helped me do well in school. But lurking was a lot of shame, because sometimes when you're supposed to have a lot of potential, sometimes if you're not measuring up, or people think you're not measuring up, you have a lot of shame. And I think, I don't know, there was just a lot of that running through the family bloodline anyway. And I don't know that now that I'm a parent, I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and a lot of the time kids pick up the consciousness and the energy of their parents and their household and even their grandparents, and they don't realize it. They think it's them, and that's what I'm trying to kind of help my kids with now, and that's what happened to me. And so basically, yeah, so for me it was kind of I don't know, but yeah, and I would say that I kind of had to neutralize myself. They call alcohol the great neutralizer, like a social lubricant or whatever. That kind of made me kind of on a level with other people, and it allowed me to kind of put up enough barriers where other people's energy wasn't, if it was mixing with mine, I didn't care that much. And
I know what you mean.
I did not, I awoke, I had to get sober in order to awaken. And I got, I got stripped of that in 2010. And I kind of lived like, in a way I felt like I was living just like everybody else. But, I had a good lifestyle. I lived in San Francisco. I got to travel the world for fun, but also for work. And I got to kind of got to live at the many lives in one life. Like, that's what's kind of been.
What was your work?
Well, I did a lot of, like, when I was in college, like, I did a lot of interning in the entertainment industry at, like, Fox Studios. And then I thought, this isn't enough money. So I decided to become a management consultant right after school. And I did that for a few years, and then it wasn't fulfilling for me. And I said, okay, I want to do entertainment. So I moved back to Los Angeles. I was born in Los Angeles and started in a mailroom at one of the big talent agencies. And that felt a lot better for me, even though it was a huge pay cut. It was like an 80% pay cut or something to make that shift. And started there and worked on a lot of studio films and independent films, and worked at different production companies, different studios, and the talent agency. And so got to know a lot of people and got to kind of see how deals were done and structured, and got to see how production worked and screenplays and all of that. And then after, like, I don't know, in 2010, right around this time, actually, it's so funny how today's January 1st, I'm talking about this, because that's when I got, was like, okay, I'm going to get sober. And, like, it took about 10 months, but that's kind of when right around this time in 2010, and then immediately, all of a sudden, spirituality and metaphysics made perfect sense, just because just because of that. And I think it was more than that. I think it was also, like, just energies from the universe, like, waking me up so that I could be ready for, like, sort of this mass wave of awakening in 2012. And so that's when I started learning about just, like, possibilities. Like, I started kind of going down that rabbit hole and learning about some of the possibilities of just some of the ways that I had been manipulated. And, look, I was always kind of solution minded, always looking for a way out, a way to be more empowered, a way to, help others, but also not.
So it was like the conspiracy thing a lot. That awoken a lot of people kind of questioning the government and stuff.
Definitely. I started kind of learning about just, like, the 9/11 stuff, like that it might be a hoax, and learned about the chemtrails, and heard some things that, hey, sunscreen might actually cause cancer. And just kind of being in Hollywood, I immediately found out about, like, the MK Ultra, like, mind control kind of stuff, and just the way the music was being manipulated. And I just started to see some of the possibilities. And to be honest, Cheryl, you actually helped me with this a lot. Like, it's all just fear anyway. It's good to become aware of it, because it's sort of like you get to opt out of it, but it's still fear. It definitely does. I think everybody goes through that phase that I've met. Everybody goes through that phase where they question the reality they've been presented. They question the leadership, and they question the programming that's been done on them, and that how deliberate it is. But you can't really stay there, is sort of the experience I would want to share, that I wish someone had shared with me, that Cheryl kind of was the only people who really shared that with me. And, I just, and Bashar too, just, like, you always have a choice, just opt out. And it's funny, because I used to always look up and I'd see, like, the chemtrail stuff in the sky, and then Cheryl's like, well, maybe they're just making clouds for, to cool down and offset the climate change. And I was like, yeah, maybe you're right. I'm going to go with that, Cheryl, because I don't want to be bothered by this. And it's giving too much weight to externals. It's very disempowering. And sure enough, like I started seeing clouds all the time after we had that conversation. So
yeah, you see the chemtrails, you see them doing it. Sometimes it doesn't work. I heard it only works like 35% of the time, but those odds, the 35% chance that the chemtrail is going to make the cloud, the way that cools the earth down and the way that actually gets the precipitation to coagulate or whatever, condensate, it gets the rain to fall, it's worth spraying that much aluminum in the atmosphere. The aluminum in the whatever it is that they're spraying that makes the cloud condensation, that makes the rainfall.
Yeah.
It's worth a little bit of poisoning. And the thing that kills me, I just want to go ahead and get into this since we're talking about it before you continue. The thing that kills me is, well, half the people that say this, that, oh, chemtrails, and they're wearing the tinfoil hat, they use deodorant with aluminum in it, and that's because you're drinking stuff with your armpits. Drink what you put on them, and you're putting, what is it, Teen Spirit? I don't even know, because I use Tom's for the past 10 years. So go ahead and spray your chemtrails. I'm still not as poisonous as everybody cooking out of aluminum, wrapping their potatoes in aluminum, throwing them on the grill like the good old American barbecue way. If you don't want to be poisoned, then don't poison yourself.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's so funny. But it's like people like what I've learned is people get something, including me. Like I'm not putting myself above people, because I had to go through this and I still catch myself. When you have something to blame, whether it's like your mom or your dad or the chemtrails or the government, you don't have to have as much responsibility yourself. And that's the fear, and that's the belief system, and it's sort of an easy way out. But it's fun to kind of give yourself permission. I love the use of the word permission slips. I learned that from Cheryl and Bashar. But just like giving yourself permission to like really create your own reality. Like, okay, no, like you can create anything. You can create, you have to practice at it, and you don't just like wake up one day and like have like maybe control over the weather. But you can make choices every day, because like one of the big turning points for me, and Bashar really helped with this as well, is like we are constantly going in and out of parallel realities every minute, every second. Like, so when you said, Cheryl, before we even started this call, that things were just kind of changing a lot and like morphing into new things, it was like, yeah, because you're going in and out of those parallel realities, and you're very aware of it. A lot of people are not aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to know your preferences. You have to kind of know, like, what do I prefer? And I've been working on that, like working on jumping on timelines that I actually want to be on, and tuning out and opting out of timelines I don't want to be on.
Yeah, exactly. It is a big topic, you don't, it's not relevant to control gravity or to just go ahead and starve yourself and expect you to get the nourishment you need. Like, we might not be ready for that, although we probably will be there. We'll be teleporting. We'll be completely, we'll be able to transcend some of these. They're not really laws. They're belief templates from in a higher level than our own thoughts, feelings, beliefs. The collective and individual consciousness levels, and then the template level of reality. That's where stuff like gravity is stored. And yes, we can't fly right now. It's not relevant. So if it's not relevant for our beliefs to morph and change reality in that way, it's not going to happen. It's a better permission slip to eat healthy than to expect yourself to will the cancer away. As of right now, we're getting there. But yeah, I thought I'd just add that in there. So, let me like kind of interview you, I guess, a little bit. When did I guess the point in your career, in your life, or whatever, that you became spiritual. Well, you were saying it happened in 2012.
Right. I mean, what happened is in 2010, I started to become, like, it was like I got an upgrade. It was just like suddenly I had a download, and I all of a sudden understood things that I just didn't understand before about just states of mind and states of being, and how I could really opt out of sickness. I could opt out of physical problems. I could opt out of even like emotional, mental problems, and that I could also really help people if I wanted to as well. But then in 2012, that's when I started to really notice, hey, something's happening for all of us. And for me, I found myself at the end of, even throughout most of 2012, but even at the end where I really saw a shift, I literally remember feeling it on 12/21/12. I was like, the world is not the same as it used to be. We are operating in a different rule book now. Like, I just felt like something really changed. And I found myself around very high level people that were extremely spiritual, like 400 of them at a time in New York City, a very interesting city with very fast moving, fast momentum energy. Things manifest very fast in New York, no matter what year it is, if it's 2012 or whenever. But I found myself there, and I was just meeting a lot of people that really had what I wanted artistically, professionally, energetically, spiritually, and it was very good for me. It was very healthy for me, and helped me kind of really see how many infinite possibilities there were.
With the 400 people.
Hmm?
What was the event in New York you were talking about? 400 people.
It was a film production out there, and it was just a really big crew, and it was an action film, and yeah, it was just really inspiring to be there. It wasn't just them; it was also the New Yorkers, and but yeah, I mean,
but that's
so
cool.
that
You went to New York and you had that perception of New York, and I hear a lot of people say they go to New York and it's dark and people are all angry and they drive crazy, and you know what I mean. But you went to New York and you're, I don't know, because I guess you were in alignment at that time, and it was just time for you to karmically or whatever.
It had been on my list. Like, I mean, it's crazy. It's like, I think a lot of the things that I manifested a lot of the things that are in my life, and that was one of them. I wanted to live in New York only for 6 months, not for permanently, and I didn't want to just live there or visit there. I wanted to have a purpose of being there for work. And so literally what was funny is when I first got on the film, we were going to shoot in Canada, and then and then I wasn't going to go, and then all of a sudden I was going to go, and we moved to New York, where I had a lot of friends, a lot of spiritual friends that were already living there, that honestly they really helped me through the experience as well, just having them right there. So they helped me like hold the energy. It was, you have to be, whatever you see, the thing about things like the law of attraction is some people just, they do it and they end up in a situation that they and this has sort of happened to me too, but I'm aware of it, where you find yourself in a situation where you manifested what you wanted. Like, let's say you wanted to win the lottery. In my case, it was New York, but then you can't hold the energy. Like, you manifested on a peak moment, and then now you're there, and it's like you can't always maintain it. So it's so important to constantly practice being ready for whatever it is that you think you want, so that when and if it does happen, you can really practice holding that energy every day.
Well, having it and then losing it is also a part, I'll just add, of being able to maintain it. Because whenever, like, say, things start to not go your way, and you're like, oh, well, this isn't working. Well, why isn't, it's actually resistance. So if things start to go another way, you're like, what's this you have in store for me, universe? can be completely, utterly allowing. That's
Mm.
a training process here that we're all going to have to do to get to that fifth dimension.
Yeah. But I mean, it's funny because like with the New York thing, it was definitely a stretch to like hold the energy, and like it was good that I had friends that weren't involved in my work there to kind of support me. But like I remember being there and being like, I really want to try acting, you know? And then like I really want to get married. Like I think I really want to get married and like start a family. And like these were just little thoughts, like, and then like literally the next thing I know, I'm back in LA, like a little bit early than planned, and like I'm acting and I'm like getting married, and like, you know what I mean? Like it happened so fast. It was like,
wow,
you put something out there and like you want to control the timeline of it, but it can happen a lot faster. You kind of have to be ready. And for me, I wanted to have kids, and when I was a little girl, like I was like, I want to have. My friend was a redhead with blue eyes, and she's like, yeah, I want to marry a man who has red hair and blue eyes because I want to have babies with red hair and blue eyes. And like I was like, yeah, me too. But like I didn't really want it like her, but I was like, yeah, me too. I think that would be cool. And then like that's exactly, my husband doesn't even have red hair, but the kids were born with red hair and blue eyes. I was like, oh my God. And I wanted to get married by the time I was 30. I literally got married a couple days before I turned 30. Like, so even some of the things you want when you're a little kid, they happen like many, many years later. But I feel like in these times, in these energies, everything's very accelerated. Things are happening so fast, especially if you have kind of made a leap to 5D, and like it's happening real quick. So yeah. But what I was gonna say too with the kids is like I was able to hold the energy of having the one very, very well, and then I was able to handle the energy of having the two of them very, very well. But then I was like, oh, I really want to live in a house in a very nice neighborhood. And then that happened. The whole family and the dogs, and we all moved to a very nice house with a pool and like a nice neighborhood. But then I wasn't like, that was on a peak that I wanted that and manifested that. But then it was hard. It's been hard for the past, 2.5 years to sometimes hold the vibration and the energy of all that.
I just want to interject, because I think this is a big theme that everybody's experiencing right now. Like, I'm so, this is spiritual, things are going so well with me. Why all of a sudden are these things happening? And so it's oftentimes like I think that most times it's a part of our path to go in cycles like this. Because even though you know it, or even though you comprehend it, you understand it, you passionately teach it, it still can be a deeper level of knowing, like really knowing.
Right.
Where
exactly.
It's like walking, like Bashar says, It's like walking across the room and turning the light off. So somebody says, hey, can you get the light? You don't need to go, oh, how do I put one foot in front of the other and balance so I can walk? You just get up and do it.
Right.
This spiritual knowledge becomes like that. That's what we're doing here. And you can skate by with just the understanding the universe doesn't doesn't hit you with another challenge. Then how can you be tested in that way? So we're going to be challenged. A lot of spiritual people come on really strongly at first. It is very inspirational. You're literally channeling entities. You're hearing all this. You're like, oh, this is divine. Nobody else around me knows this crap. I'm understanding this. Tangent and talk for hours. Just because you can do that doesn't mean that it is really synonymous with behavior, as Bashar says.
Yep. Yeah. It is about that knowing. I really agree with you on that. And for me, I'm kind of learning to not build on a faulty foundation. And so that means like kind of feeling my way into each moment and noticing, okay, like I feel this frustration coming up or anger coming up, and just not like just letting it pass, not like verbalizing it, just letting it pass, and cleaning these blocks up as I go along has been helpful, and it has helped me kind of harmonize with the life that I have now. But also, I mean, I guess what you're saying is, I mean, part of that was because that dissonance was also because it was like, okay, now I've built this, but really I need more fulfillment. I found I needed even more fulfillment than working on films, or even
Right.
more fulfillment than a marriage or having kids or having dogs, like all things I always really wanted. But it was like, no, I really want to change the world. And this belief had been put in me from basically from someone in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, you're not really supposed to talk about, like, there's sort of principles about anonymity, but as press creator and film, but it had come there, and that, no, don't change the world don't want to be changed, was like ringing in my head from someone I really, really respected and had a lot of authority and power in my life. And but then once I realized, no, my whole life I've always believed I can change the world, and that I'm a divine architect, and that I'm going to be building stuff that's going to be on a global level.
Wow.
And so finally I gave myself permission to do that.
See, the world wants to change itself, so it started producing these natural, I guess, like antibodies, and so we have the star seeds that come down. So it doesn't need to be changed, but when it wants to be changed, it will find a way, with or without you. You just happen to be like, I'll participate, but it's all part of the grand scheme. So.
Yeah, but I just kind of also realized that just talking with you all on this show is that, okay, I always thought that, I mean, I guess it's a mixture of both. It's the reason that I experienced some dissonance over the past year was because I wasn't knowing the truth as much. Maybe I wasn't getting as much reflection or relatedness as I really needed from other people. But also I wasn't supposed to be comfortable, because I was supposed to kind of shift gears and get off of one path and onto another, so to speak. A path that I
think we're doing that a lot. We're upgrading level by level, like shifting gear, like we're taking off, man. Lift off, like totally. A lot of us New Agers on this path.
Wow, that's a wild, awakening process. It's really interesting how it happened, like at the drop of a hat. It happened one day where you kind of woke up, and that's something that I've been saying that a lot of people are like you just said, will be experiencing that, at an accelerated rate as we move forward. Time as we're creating it, like more and more people are just sort of becoming more aware and expanded to the natural mechanics of consciousness that is the creation itself, which is pretty sweet. Cheryl, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you started to embark on your path, your journey?
Yeah, a little, because this will turn into an all-night thing unless you guys have all night. But I guess I can just kind of maybe tell a couple stories. And
maybe there was one moment you've had where you were one way, right? And then all of a sudden, like a lot of us, you experienced a shift. Like I said before, like a shift in consciousness, where all of a sudden all of the beliefs and things that we've held and believed to be true suddenly changed a little bit. And like Ansley said, all of a sudden the world seemed different.
Yeah.
My story is a lot like that, but I'll tell you about my experience after you.
All right. Yeah. So, it's kind of crazy, because with me there was like a trigger, and once that trigger was hit, it was like tidal wave. But and like if I had never seen this movie, I still would have found a trigger somewhere down the line. But the movie that triggered me was called What the Bleep Do We Know? And I later come to find out that it was kind of put together by a channeler, actually.
Yeah, the Joe Dispenza part probably triggered you.
Really, it was. Joe was my first taste from the movie. And I like John Hagelin. And I don't even really get into any of that anymore. Joe is still he's superior and superior. I also like Bruce Lipton. He has a book called The Biology of Belief. And he talks really like scientifically about the brain and the neural net and the beliefs and all that stuff. So Joe kind of does too, but he's actually more so because he's literally a scientist. And then people like Terrence McKenna, who's a psychonaut being somebody who is experimentation with hallucinogens and stuff like that. But yeah, well, first it really was just that movie. It said a couple things, and I was like, holy shit, the nature of consciousness is like totally different than we thought. And I was always like, I knew it. And I never said I was spiritual. I would be like, I'm agnostic. I don't really know yet. I'm atheist or something like that, you know. But I was always talking about deep stuff when I was little. I remember I would stay up all night having a slumber party with my friends, and we would just talk about the world and like crazy. This thing's crazy, and you know, I was like that person that everybody would do that with. They would do that when they were like having the slumber party with me, and so I never really kind of realized that I've always kind of been metaphysical or whatever new age. I don't know what the word is, but it was when I was 24. I worked for Blockbuster, and I would tell people about documentaries, and they were cool, and like stuff about ETs or whatever, and people would kind of be like, have you seen the movie What the Bleep? Like, they said this so many times. And there was one guy that came in. He's like, did you watch it yet? I was like, no. He's like, you're the type of person that, you know, I want you to watch it because I want to talk about it with you, though, just because we just talk about movies all day. Anyways, he checked it out, and he said, here. He's like, charge my card, because at that time, Blockbuster would just charge you if you didn't return stuff. He's like, just take this off. No, I insist, take it home. So I took it home, and I put it on my shelf for like 4 years and didn't watch it. And then, you know, I had been getting into all sorts of terrible things, and just, you know, just being a kind of a, I don't know, renegade, if you will, in my life, and had gotten into some trouble. And in that moment in time, I was starting to feel a lot of mental pressure, a lot of like suffering or whatever, you know what I mean? Right after I had watched that movie and became really inspired by some of the messages in it. And I remember applying exactly what Joe Dispenza said, that you can create your reality. So I'm suffering, tormenting myself, waking up depressed every morning. And I was literally so depressed, I'd have a panic attack right after waking up every morning. And I would just lay there, my heart would be pounding, I'd be feeling pain all over my body. And just saying that you can change this with your thoughts. Like, your thoughts are creating this reality. This reality isn't creating it like you think. It's coming from you. You're creating it with your beliefs. And ultimately is what I was saying, you know, without being able to say it in that way. And I would literally I invented the mindfulness technique way back then that I still teach to this day. Just count your breaths. Just count your breaths to 10 and just let this pass just for right now, and relax your mind. And after a couple minutes, you'll actually see that the anxiety is gone. And that's when I really got that the perspective is always changing. It might seem like this perspective is cement. It might seem as though it's never going to change. But you'll see when you're feeling happy, you could look back into the perspective and you're like, well, that's not true anymore. I'm in bliss right now. And so I just kept doing that, just switching my anxiety, and the anxiety transformed into complete and total bliss. And I didn't even really understand why. And I never really, still to this day, I haven't met very many people that experienced this. I went searching for what it was, and I discovered samadhi or nirvana. And I don't really even believe in it in the same way that the traditions teach it, because again, there's cycles and loops, and it's not just instant. And I was still very arrogant and, full of confusion, but I was flying high. Like, you could not knock me down. I was channeling all the time. Even they told me, you're going to fall again. And I'd be like, and it's going to be like, whee! I was just so happy. Like, couldn't get me down. I didn't have a significant other. I didn't care. I was an absolute ecstatic wonder. And I traveled to India, and I really thought in India that I was going to, I actually thought I was going to join a monastery. Like, this is how high flying I was. I'm going to become a nun, and I'm going to attain even more enlightenment. I'm just going to be so happy. And, when it was there, I'll just go ahead with this part of my story. When I was there, I actually learned so much about myself through the example of the pure friendship that I made, with my best friend there. So it was really kind of living with an Indian family and seeing the closeness that they had. I was staying in a monastery, doing volunteer work. I got to learn under the Dalai Lama himself. I went to several of his teachings or speeches. I got to serve food to the Lama Zopa Rinpoche and got blessings from all these masters. And, it was fun, but nothing like just the pure friendship that I made over there. And being loved by a family and traveling around and seeing the different customs and culture and the examples of just how different people can be, and learning about how much cultural beliefs change. Like, I'm just always like a scientist thinking, and and that really changed me more than anything, the tolerance that they have for one another. And just, that special bond. And other people went to India and they kind of, like, a lot of people hated it. They're like, everybody just wants to rip you off here. And I went there and found the most beautiful thing in the world, So again, just like, I guess you with New York. But and after that, I kind of went through a few more spiritual niches, I guess you could say. Kind of got off the Buddhism thing a little bit and got into more meditation and Shakti Shiva thing. And I went looking, just seeking, just searching. And I kind of started to come back down. I had a few more life things happen that brought me a little bit back down to earth. You got me a little bit more grounded and seated in all of this. And then I discovered Bashar. And that's when I was able to really define everything that I had been trying to say in the ways that I wanted to say it. Kind of got back more to where I was at the beginning. And another thing, I guess, I'll add, what really triggered everything from the very beginning was, in the very beginning, what really, really triggered me was seeing myself truly the things that I would actually say, hearing my voice, witnessing the witness state, and my motives for doing things, the purity of my motives, but the main word is compassion. I started to have so much compassion for people around me, and it inspired and changed me. That's the one thing that I really do agree with about Buddhism. Like, the whole life is suffering thing is total crap. But the fact, like, Tibetan Buddhists will say to the spiritual seekers and even the adepts, like, you don't really need any practice. You don't really need to do any of this. You're not really going to be able to utilize any of it until you can utilize compassion and be the type of person you want to meet. If you can absolutely do that, and that's going to take a while, like, it takes practice to get into being able to be that person. And once you awaken to your heart, and I believe that the heart really is the center, you're going to awaken the rest of it. If you can get there, you're good. It's very rare for a person to get there. So that's really what got me so passionate. I want to make my career about it. I talk about it every day. I've chilled out a lot recently, but especially then, this is over the period of 10 years, because this kind of started for me back in like 2007. So yeah, compassion is key, and the fact that your beliefs create your reality is key, and action energy is key, not just contemplation, meditation. I'm 34 now, and I realized this after all this seeking, that applying what you know by actually taking action in the direction of your passions and your goals, and, you know, with the balance. So yeah.
Wow.
Cheryl, I had a question. I love what you're saying about compassion being such a huge key. Is there any little process that you use now that you kind of discovered how powerful it is and how amazing it feels, and it is something that you really agree with from the Buddhist teachings? Is there any kind of process that you use now to kind of bring that to you, or is it just something that happens naturally?
No, it won't come naturally at first. I was actually speaking about this earlier to somebody else, that at first you have to initiate compassion, because we're so we're so not used to actually being meditative. You know, once you become meditative, I don't even think you need to practice as much, because you are in that state. And so what I would do, I actually used a series of techniques, and I later realized that some of this was crossing into the self-hypnosis. I would literally count. I did counting my breaths, feeling my palms, breathe, and I'd feel the energy actually scan my brain, and I would remind myself of the thing that I wanted to remind myself. Say I had fucked up and I said something mean to somebody, and I felt guilty about it, and I was like, well, I don't want to do that again, but I keep doing it mindlessly. I just do it automatically. Can I ever change? Can I ever stop being this person I really don't want to be? And that's when I'd literally scan my brain. I'd be like, not next time. Next time I'm going to apply it. Next time I'm going to do it. And the next time would come and I'd fuck it up again. I'd be a dick and realize it again. But by God, I wouldn't do it again. That same thing in that same way. I would literally program my brain with what I did. What happened? What was said? You know, what should I have done? So I actually have the conversation again with that person, but it went differently. I paused. I listened to them. I saw that they maybe did know what they were talking about, and that they matter, you know, or whatever. And so another one, you can put trigger sentences, phrases in your mind. And just so one of those was, what are they thinking? What does it feel like? Just put yourself in their shoes. Always that, put in their shoes. Just that little phrase right there. Put myself in their shoes. And you can get used to doing this. It can be a practice where at first you might have to stop for a second and go, and put yourself in their shoes and be like, oh. Like, they must be feeling bad. Oh, I don't want them to feel bad. I don't like hurting. I don't like them hurting. And then you see they're logical. Of course they're going to think that way if this is happening to them. Pretend that you're them. And so at first that would take like a few, maybe a minute, and then it would take a few seconds. And, you know, now it just, bam, happens. And it's automatic now. But at first, yeah, that's why I say compassion wasn't something that once you realize that, oh, we want to be good people, you're not automatically a good person. You still have to practice applying it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it's wild. It's really neat.
Yeah, that's incredible. And wow, do you think you'll ever experience that blissed out state for extended periods again? Would you ever want to? Did it feel kind of like, oh, at times out of control, or how long did it last?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why it happened. I've come to a lot of conclusions, like maybe it was a loophole. I still had the negative beliefs in there, but for some reason I was flying really high above them, not even perceiving them. They were in the deep recesses of my unconsciousness, and I was able to perceive what it was like to kind of be a Buddha. And so now I've come back down and I've had to realize some of these things that it's in my unconscious. I have the ability to choose it, and it found a way in the back door, and I started choosing it a little bit, and it makes you not as happy. And another thing I think that affects it is the fact that my vibration changed so abruptly. I wasn't used to it, so it was really different for me, whereas now I've adjusted myself to having a higher vibration, so a lot more to get me going, I guess you could say. But
Wow.
yeah, again, this is still speculation. I don't know exactly. I've thought about it for the past 10 years of my life. At first, I was really sad that it was missing. I was like, am I ever going to be that? I become obsessed with being that way again. And, so it took a lot. It was that intense. It lasted for like 3 years. It slowly faded off.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is very rare, right? Have you ever met anyone else who had that kind of longevity to that being in that state? 3 years is a long time.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think so. But not sure. Not many, though. Not like that. It must, it was some kind of activation that really adjusted a lot of my DNA very quickly. I was able to, I guess, handle it. I suppose I was handling it. Kind of a Fruit Loop. My whole family was scared. Because all I did was talk about, ETs and channeling and spirits and the angel I saw last week and this thing I communicated with through a portal and talking to my friends, dead relatives, and knowing everything about a person. I'd have like weird abilities come on and off. So a little bit more balance.
Wow. Do you have all those abilities now still, or?
So I actually decided not to have some of these abilities when it comes to being like tell if somebody killed somebody or not. I was like that's not helping me or them to know this, and so I know I shut a lot of those off, and I do still have them, but it's more of a natural motion. Like I just kind of know in a calm way. It's not like this thing that happened. I know I'll intuitively actually unconsciously sense it and be able to maybe say something to that person to like stop something that might happen in the future, or know that it's not my place to try to change that's something that they need to go through, so it's like more calm. And I have a more well-rounded, whereas before it would be a spike, a flash. Now I have more of the senses turned on evenly all around, and like I said, I know what I want to do with my own life and where it's applicable, where it's necessary or relevant for me to have any of those abilities. Not really. I want a more simple life than that, I think, now.
Yeah, what you talked about getting more grounded after this kind of 3-year period. What does that mean to you? And you said that your family was kind of like you were very free with them about discussing things that maybe they didn't understand. Do you think part of grounding is like sort of considering your audience and knowing what to say to who? How has that morphed and changed and shifted throughout this journey that you've been on from the mass awakening to now?
Yeah, because before I was still being presumptive that everybody was going to be on board, or that was going to be their passion too, because everybody's different. Respect. If somebody doesn't even want to be spiritual, okay, let's just play Monopoly or something, or let's watch a stupid sitcom. Like you have to be able to be in this world and that world at the same time and apply it when it's relevant. It's not relevant for you to go spouting off about everything 24/7. And I got ahead of myself with my ego or whatever. I was thinking I was better than I was because I had conceived of all this, but just because I conceived of all of it didn't make it synonymous with action. So taking a step back and being able to apply it and being able to take action energy and do something about this and, be able to change more people. I was like a loaded gun, and it was all necessary to get me where I am now, especially before I would be like, oh, just change your perspective, you'll be fine. You can't really tell that with PTSD, but now I know how to help a multitude of different types of people with different types of challenges. And so I'm thankful for that. And I do think that I'll have the bliss, and it'll be more, when I say more grounded, I mean, it's not necessary to get so excited so much, not having such a big waves, but still riding the crest of my own wave through all this, if that makes sense.
Right. No, I understand.
And I want to be able to reach common ground with a lot of different types of people. There's some, like even like an elderly couple where all they like to do is farm and talk about their grandkids. I want to be able to have a damn good time with them too. And you can, because we're all
resonates with
always.
me.
It's always all a spiritual experience. Go ahead.
Oh, I just was saying I love that, and that's what resonates with me too, is just being able to harmonize with many different types of people. And I think about, like, what are those universal languages? Well, there's music, there's images, there's pictures, photography, films to some degree. But then what are some of the, how do you kind of balance all that with your, like, what is your public persona? And if you have a public persona that's very spiritual or into like ETs or anything like that, then how does that kind of reverberate back to people, like you just described, like family members or people that you want to be able to talk with them about their grandkids or farming, simple things? How does that all balance out? Is it ever a
challenge? I guess I kind of just, I will sort of try to turn it off, because I get preachy. And if you can, here's one thing: if you can say one thing that really hits them home and kind of gets people to be like, a lot of people need it to be practical, need it to be something that applies. Like I have a really good friend back in Georgia. She doesn't come to me for much, but like if she's having an argument with her husband or something like that, and I'll be able to say the one thing in very few words that really hits it home the best. Not all the extra, but being able to really help them in that way. So when it's relevant, when it's necessary, with people who don't really want to talk about this. Because everybody likes to get deep every now and then, but a lot of people only like to do it when it's practical. So, and just caring about people. Everybody, love is universal. I like being able to find people, friends that I can bond with, that we can grow trust in one another. And that right there means more to me than deep spiritual philosophical conversation.
Wow. Yeah.
To me. Yeah.
Wow. That's wild. It sounds like a really neat, a really interesting journey. To say the least. I'm sure there's a lot of exciting stories like entangled in that particular story. But
yeah, you seem so like such a citizen of the world. Like, you seem to do so much traveling and be able to, like, do you speak any other languages? How do you relate so easily to people from other cultures? That's really incredible.
It's so crazy, because I speak I guess I know a few Spanish words, a few Hindi words, probably more Japanese than anything, just because of anime. But
Sugoi.
Sugoi. No, I actually met my best friend that lives in India, and when I met him, he was just a boy kind of selling gems on the street, and he would study his books there at the shop, and he would only really attend school on test days to pass. And he said to me, I do really good, actually, considering I don't go to school. I get good marks and everything besides English. With very broken English, but I felt more connected to him speaking broken English, just the body language, his eyes, and our heart-to-heart connection, you know, because we're saying a lot more than just these words with our energy. And so I taught him English, and he said to me that I was his best teacher or whatever, you know. But really, I think it was just because we really just understood each other in that way. And, you know, even by the end of just spending a few months of him there, we spent like almost every day together, probably. We were able to discuss philosophical things and all sorts, you know, and it was just a lot of fun doing that. So that's kind of what that reminds me of, what you said there. Yeah, you know, a lot of these countries that you go to, they speak English. Almost everybody speaks English. I go to make the attempt to learn, but since English is the most universal language, I already speak English. That really works out for me. I don't know, I think if I really did live in another country, I think it might be easier, but yeah.
Cool. All right, well, I guess I'll tell our listeners a little bit about myself. Now, my story, I can really relate to both of you in different areas. So it's like, you know, our stories, you know, are very much different, but our feelings are very much the same, which is, you know, pretty wild. So for me, my name is Trent, by the way, for all of you that don't know that. Yeah, I live on the east end of Long Island in New York, and I've lived here my whole entire life. Now, I was brought up living with my mother, a single mother, and it wasn't necessarily a spiritual background at all. So metaphysics and spirituality were something I was completely alien to my whole entire life. As a matter of fact, my life really consisted of, you know, a strong focus point on the physicality of everything. After certain years when I was a teenager, I became myself to be like a dedicated, you know, Christian, and I felt, you know, a lot of comfort in that. I mean, it was a lot, like, we have a lot of different chapters, you know, in our lives, and you know, some of them are more graceful than others. The stage I'm at now, just jump around a little bit. You know, I create YouTube videos, and I help a lot of people with, you know, a lot of things that we go through. One of the things I convey a lot is the chapters of our lives, and how everything constantly changes. So that principle right there is something that, you know, I stick by, you know, very strongly. You know, a few years ago and a few years before that, I was a completely different person. And just like you said earlier, Ansley, we are actually different people moment to moment to moment, due to the fact that we are constantly shifting through multiple realities a second. So anyway, being really focused on the physicality, my interest really lied in some of the physical things. So it was, you know, money, and, you know, six packs and Jeeps and going to the beach and girls, whatever it was. There was a lot of stuff like that. But to fast forward a little bit and bring you up to speed with my awakening, or the shift in consciousness, I would like to call it. So it was a few years ago, maybe 2016, 2017. A certified personal trainer, and I would exercise at my house every day. One day I was exercising, and the schedule that I had for most of the days were very much put together. Like, I would, you know, eat my meals at certain times, and I would, you know, work for certain hours. I would exercise at certain times, and everything was like sort of set into place. Now, that was because of consciously making the decision to have some type of order in my life. Because of the chapters before that were completely scattered. Just like you, Ansley, I also suffered from, you know, active alcoholism and addiction. So my life was very, very much chaotic, and I needed to really give that a conscious, you know, attention. So again, fast forward a little bit. I'm coming to exercise at my house, and everything had like a set schedule that I would follow to the best of my ability, of course. When things didn't go my way or couldn't follow them, then I would just make do and do the best I could. Anyway, so I finished training, and I step into my house, and I start undressing my gear off, and for some reason, I got confused, and I lost track of what I was doing, and I started putting my gear back on, my sweaty workout clothes. You know, I stepped outside to go into my little fitness studio, and when I opened the door, I saw there were my weights on the floor. And all of a sudden, the memory just came flooding back in that, hey, I just exercised like for a whole hour, like moments ago. And then all these other memories came flooding in. And the weird part is, which I'll get to this in a little bit, is that a lot of the memories that I had weren't necessarily things that I've experienced. I'm not trying to say that I was predicting the future. I'm saying that I was having memories, interactions, Facebook communication, and emails, and just experiences that didn't happen, that I was remembering that like I did have them, like all these. It was really wild thing. So I got very confused and I got very, very scared. And just like you, Cheryl, I was experiencing, after researching a little bit of what it was kind of like a panic attack or a anxiety disorder that I was going through, and it was very new to me. I went my whole life without feeling anything like that. So, just a few years ago, I finished, my exercise, and I come inside and I think, I'm going to take my post-workout shake and I'm going to go into the shower and I'm just going to, get back into my, timeline, my train of thought, and wash it off, and I got into the shower and it wasn't happening. All of a sudden, everything was getting black, and I felt like my heart was beating out of my chest, and my knees started to buckle, and there was this looming fear that took over my entire body, and I was about to collapse. And I was 100% certain that I was about to die. I didn't know why, but the fear was based on a confusion that I had. Like when I got those memories of exercising, and then the times during that day and the weeks and other memories that were just integrated into it, I got confused and I started to question the whole day, question the whole week, and then I questioned my whole life, and I really didn't understand what was real and what was not. And for all I knew, like I could have been some sicko who's like guilty of a heinous crime like moments before, and I wouldn't even realize. I lost track of everything and who I was. It was very, very scary. It was one of the most it was one of the scariest things that ever happened to me in my entire life. So I turned the shower off and I call my girlfriend at the time, and I say, she picks up, and I'm like, hey, something's wrong. I need your help. And she could hear it in my voice. She knew right away that something was up. Like I've never said anything like that to her. So she hung up on me, and she just got in her car and she drove over to my house. She lives right across town. And then, she scooped me up. She walked inside and she saw I was in my towel, and I was just frightened. I was just freaking out. It was crazy. So she brought me to her house, and I just sort of sat there with her on the couch, just feeling like a fucking wreck. Like I can't even describe it. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But so she sat there with me and sort of rubbed my arm for like 3 hours. And that's all she could really do. Like we were very, vulnerable, I guess, or useless, or I don't know what the term would be. Just very, there was nothing that we can do. Helpless. So eventually, I got home later that night. I tried to sort of sleep it off, which was very difficult. Anyway, there was an anxiety thing that I was holding on after researching, finding out that's what it was. It was an anxiety disorder. Holding on to that each day. So like you said also, Cheryl, I would wake up in the morning, and if I were to put a number on my anxiety level, like when I was having that attack, it would be at a 10. But I'd wake up every day and I'd be like at like a 5 or a 6. I just felt off. I felt like something was wrong, and I felt confused. And there was a lot of days, coming up after that event where I would just periodically look outside of my window to see if my Jeep was in the driveway, because I didn't know how I got home. And I was very, very confused. And more of these memories kept coming in. And it was very, very, it was really, really scary. And I was afraid to talk to people about it too, because, at this particular stage of my life, I'm sober for years and years, and I sponsor young men on the path of sobriety, also embarking on a nutrition journey, or to be a certified nutritionist, and also already a fitness trainer. So here I am portraying this image who I want to be, or living the image who I think I am, Mr. Stability, Mr. Health, right? Well, collapsing in the shower, that's not health. That's fucking weak. That's fucked up. So that was kind of the thing. So I was afraid to really be open with it. So the small people that I was open with, and I got a lot of comfort from, especially another friend of mine who suffered from panic attacks. When I spoke with him and he told me his experience, I found a lot of comfort in that, because I felt like I wasn't alone. I would go onto YouTube and just constantly search psychiatrists and doctors and neurosurgeons and neurobiologists and look at videos on panic disorders and anxiety attacks and all that stuff. So I became really well versed in the idea of what was happening to me, and that's what I came to understand was happening to me. And I thought it was, I wasn't sure what it was, but I thought it could have been my diet. So I made the adjustments and I changed everything in my diet. I know that a lot of us alcoholics, we go through hypoglycemia. I thought it could be a precursor to diabetes, because the shock that was happening to my body when these attacks would occur was so physical, where I felt like I said, my knees were going to buckle, everything became black and I couldn't see, and my heart was racing out of my chest, and I felt dizzy and I felt sick, and I was certain I was going to die. This experience was happening more and more. It was happening all the time, a couple times a week, and it was ruining my life. So fast forward a little bit of dealing with this, being totally new to it, because my whole entire life before that, I'd never experienced anything like that at all. Like, I've been sick and I've been to the doctor, but nothing like this. So I've, understanding it's a, kind of like an anxiety thing, but still not sure. I did go to the doctor, and I took, there was all this blood work that was taken and sent to labs, and I've had brain scans and spinal scans to see if there was a neurological disorder. Like, oh, fucking no, it's the big C in my brain. I got cancer, I got tumors, I'm fucked up. And that's where my mind went initially. So anyway, test results came back. I'm healthy as a fucking ox, like extremely strong and healthy in all the ways that they did tests for. So there was no real way to really identify what's happening with me. So that's when I came to the conclusion, like, once and for all, I was going through an anxiety disorder. So fast forward a little bit, this was happening for about, for months, maybe like 8 months. And then I distinctly remember one scenario that was, it really blew me away. And even today, like, it's so nuts. I remember I was exercising early in the morning, and my girlfriend and my son and we were taking a trip to go somewhere far away, like a day trip, right? And we stopped at a deli not too far away from where I live. And I remember walking up the steps and helping my girlfriend up the steps and telling her the things that I've ordered from this place and things that she might want to eat too, because she's very fit and she was a nutritionist as well. And I remember telling my son what he might like to order, because he's extremely picky and I know what he likes to eat. We've never been to that place. We've never left to go anywhere early in the morning. We've never, her and I and my son have never been to that deli, but I know that we have. I feel that it's so crazy to me. And that was just one experience. So there's been a lot of memories like that, is what I meant. Not like predicting the future, just like memories of this alternate life, and like very, very strong. Like, and I would get confused on which life I'm living or which life I'm remembering. And it was a whole bunch of them. And it really, really freaked me out. So one day I'm riding home from work, and I started to have this panic attack. Headed to the ferry. I live on a small island here on the east end of Long Island. And I'm headed to the ferry after work, and I lose track of where I am, and I'm driving, this van, and everything starts to get black, and I start to I can't breathe, and I can't catch my breath, and I'm starting to pull over, and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking die. This is it. So I pull over, and I pull out my phone, and I go to YouTube, and I look up I just type in anxiety, right? So I need someone to tell me about it. I need to hear something. I need some comfort. I don't know where to look. And it was an anxiety relief meditation. And I was like, whatever that is, So I clicked on the video, and I put my little earbuds in, and I did all the stuff that it said, just like Cheryl said about concentrating on the breath, taking 10 deep breaths. So I did that. I closed my eyes, I took breaths, and I did the stuff that all this little guided meditation said. It was like a 10-minute meditation. And then my anxiety was gone. I was able to just, start the van back up and head home.
Wow.
Yeah. So, fast forward now a little bit, I started meditating every day. I felt like it was something I needed to do. I felt like it grounded me. It really helped, for whatever reason. And now fast forward a little bit more, panic attacks came a lot less and less frequent. So I wasn't having them for a few weeks, but I was still meditating every day. And now my interest really, really changed. Not so much on looking up anxiety attacks, but looking up meditation and chakra activation meditation, or mindfulness, or transcendental. And really running with that, and doing meditation every day and learning more and more. And now, instead of looking up, neurobiologists and neurosurgeons, I'm looking up, spiritual teachers. And that's where my interest was. And at the same time, another weird thing, which I forgot to mention, that when these memories came flooding in that one particular day and the other days, there was like the spark of, and it sounds really wild. I mean, not too much to us, but to maybe some other listeners that are new to this. ET contact was something that was really playing a big role in these memories and this weird thing. So I became obsessed once again with the idea of meditation and ET contact, which is kind of wild. So let me fast forward a little bit to, the good part here, the shift of consciousness. That's what I'm trying to get to. It's one day, it's in the summer, and I'm lying down on the grass outside, and I'm doing a meditation like I always do. Could have been just a transcendental meditation. And I take my breaths and I do all my stuff, and then when I'm done, 15 minutes later, I open my eyes, and I swear, I shit you not, the world was different. Just like you said, Ansley, where the world was different. And what I mean by that is I rolled over onto my belly and I looked at the trees. And there was this connection with nature that I've never, ever been able to, I can't even put it into words what was happening here, but I'll try. So we understand that, trees and, grass and bushes, they're all alive. We're taught that they're alive. And I knew they always were. Like they would take in, oxygen and, or they would take in carbon dioxide and emit oxygen. And I knew that they were, breathing, I knew that there was life in a living tree, but not like this. Not like the way that I felt that day after the meditation. And when you're sitting in a room and maybe someone walks in and they're very, very silent, and you could have your back turned to them, but you feel the presence of someone. Maybe you're in a crowded room and you can feel the energy from all the people. Well, the etheric energy running through all things. We feel it in people a lot. The electromagnetic energy, the etheric energy, spiritual energy, whatever we want to call it. We can feel that. And when I rolled over, the trees were absolutely just as strong as people. And I felt like I was in a crowd of just thousands and thousands of people. And I looked over at the trees that were very, very far away. And they didn't seem far. They seemed close. It was like a whole perspective switch. So everything was close and everything was far at the same time. Then a big gust of wind came by and moved all the blades of grass right under where I was lying. And it fucking shot across the yard. And at that moment, I realized that each blade of grass is a living thing and all connected to another thing. And I am very much connected to that. And that, my heart started to race. I was like, oh my God, am I having a panic attack here? I'm like, what's happening? And then a little bumblebee flew in front of my face, and then a bird flew overhead into a tree. And I looked up at this bird, and I felt like I was the bird. I was the bee. I was every single thing. And everything was me, and we were all connected on an intimate level, more than anybody can ever tell me before that. I was only able to feel it at this moment. It just like a shift in consciousness. And from that point on, my life has never ever been the same. This has been about 3 years ago now, and since then, continuing with meditation, continuing with spiritual practice, has been one of the most important things in my entire life. After that initial day with the shift, and the panic attacks, they went away. That's no longer a part of my life anymore.
Wow.
So one of the few days after my initial awakening, not knowing what it was, just knowing everything is different. I would be walking up to a building and I would see a bush, a small tiny bush or a flower, and it would just be pushing me over, so apparent and present, and then there was a time later that day where I just felt compelled to I was in a trance. I went over to this tree and I wrapped my arms around it. I felt like I had to, there was something calling me, and I did. And once I touched my skin to this particular tree, it's like if you touch another person, if you kiss somebody or touch somebody on the hand or touch someone on the arm, you can feel the life, you can feel the energy within you. And I can feel that when I'm walking barefoot. I feel that with the earth. I'm so connected to the idea that there's an energy in everything. We're connected to it. So I have a friend on Facebook, and it was Cheryl, and I had never spoken to her before, but she showed up on my feed, and I forget what it was that you said, Cheryl, but it really sparked an interest, and I decided to send you a message. And what I sent you a message that day, and I said something to you that I've never said to anybody else ever, especially in a greeting interaction. What I asked you was if you were a contactee. And I have no idea why I said that, but I just felt like, I don't know, I was just compelled to. And that's, when Cheryl and I became friends, and she let me know about, Bashar, which was a fantastic, teacher. So, hours and hours and hours now, I'm just like loving Bashar and listening to all he has to say. And that was the beginning part of my spiritual journey. It was the connection with nature, the connection with the etheric energy, learning through all things, and then learning what Bashar had to say. And then, of course, branching off onto, other things. So now I'm, at a point where working alone, able to just listen to podcasts or YouTube or different videos with spiritual advisors and spiritual teachers and gurus, and still neurobiologists and neurosurgeons, and just taking it all in and learning every little bit that I can. So, and I feel blessed in a way that I'm able to really receive that information in like a complete abundance. Like I can just listen to whatever I want for hours and hours and hours a day while I'm at work with my headphones. I can just listen to Stuart Wilde for 10 hours at a clip if I feel like. And that's what I was doing in the beginning. When when Cheryl first introduced me to Bashar and I discovered Bashar, hours and hours and hours and hours a week would just go by, and I would just take in all the transmissions, and I would write down some of the key points, and then I found a way to download some of the transcripts so I can read some of the information again and really apply it into my life the way that I, to really integrate what he says, and that also doesn't really just go for Bashar. I mean, it also goes for Wayne Dyer or Stuart Wilde or any other spiritual teacher. So that's kind of where my stage was. So in a way, like Cheryl, you said, I'm kind of the new kid on the block. It's only been my 3 years, but before that, before any of the way that I am now, like it was all very focused on the physical. It was all about 6-packs and the beach, my lifted Jeep and girls, something like that. And now, after this awakening process, a lot of people hear about being awakened, hear about the shift in consciousness, and I'm here to tell you, just like Cheryl will, I know she will say the same thing, that it's not all fun and games. Now, there's a time where you'll find that it's a destructive process where everything you thought to be true is just teared down, and you have to rebuild it. And it's sort of transmuting the negative and positive. That's what I believe. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. Just continuing my spiritual path, and it's led me to like other avenues too. So taking a course on being a life coach to help others look at their circumstances through different perspectives have been a big thing in the past couple of days with my life. Learning a lot from other customers and clients about the things that they say and how I can relate to them, and just sort of providing them with the right questions instead of telling them what I believe and what I think they should believe. It's sort of just allowing them to come to those conclusions themselves. So before that, after being awakened, I guess we like to call it, the destructive process was the things that I held really dear to me in my life, like my relationship completely went south. And my family, I'm completely alienated against my family. And then, my AA family, which was something I was very, very much connected to, but sort of, I would preach, a lot of empowerment, because that's what I felt, that we are in control and we are the ones who are the creators of our own lives, the masters of our own, existence. We write the pages to our book. We are our own authors, depending on our feeling states and our thoughts. But in AA, we're taught we're powerless over our addiction, and the only thing we can control is what comes out of our mouths. That was a big thing. I used to believe that, but so now being alienated against my AA community, my family, they think I'm the odd man out now. I don't have anybody I can really talk to about spirituality and stuff, and I've learned just like Cheryl did, I guess, where when I'm in the general public, when I can tell, for the most part, if someone is going to be able to receive what I have to say, and I can tell when they're not. So a lot of times I shut down and I just continue my own path. I just listen and learn and apply what I've learned on my own. And if someone asks me, I'm glad to, help them. But in regard to fitness and nutrition, being a nutritionist and a personal trainer, like making videos and conveying the importance of physical fitness and how it's connected, absolutely connected, because our brains and our bodies are just the antennas for our consciousness. Coming to that conclusion and really tying it all in together has been a fantastic avenue for my business in the past 6 months or so. We're really taking it in another direction, and I guess what we would call that is the holism approach, or a holistic, where mind, body, and spirit are very, very much connected. So watching what we put into our bodies and then watching what we do with our bodies is very, very important, because it's a key component to our spiritual evolution. Even if it feels like our physical body is just a manifestation of our ego or this and that, I don't believe that. I believe that it's a reflection of our beliefs. It's an outward reflection of physical crystallization of ourselves, and we need to take care of it. So that's sort of what I convey.
Wow, I love that story so much. That's incredible. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely, I was wondering, like, why, why you had those anxiety attacks and blackouts? Like, what do you think it was?
Well, I do now. I did come to the understanding there's a couple of things that are pointing towards, or signs that point towards this. So when I talked about the awakening, being a destructive process, an anxiety disorder or panic attack could have been part of that initial awakening. And, maybe I feel like it just happened one moment where I'd rolled over from my meditation and everything was changed. I could have been going through the process for a few months, and panic attacks were how my body, or how I was interpreting it and how it was affecting me. That could be. And there's also the idea, the one thing I'm I'm pretty certain, and it's really, really big, and it's really, really wild, the idea of these other memories that were coming in, like people that I've spoke. It's so crazy. People I know, speaking with people and having text communication and back and forth emails, and then I go to my email and it's not there, and I don't know this person, and it's like I remember talking to some young guy about his haircut, and fucking I texted him a message, and I never did, and it's like, but I fucking did, and he responded, and we talked, and it's like so many scenarios and things that would happen at work and places that I've been and this and that, and videos that I've made and put on YouTube, like I don't know. And so coming to the understanding, shifting through billions and billions of multiple realities, I'm kind of leaning towards the idea that there was a sort of a weird thing there where I was tapping into other versions of myself, because the memories that I was having weren't like dreams where it was totally bizarre and time didn't make sense and this and that. They were regular daily experiences that I know, like I feel with every ounce of my being, that have happened. But they didn't. But they just didn't. They didn't in this reality, at least.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it's a wild thing to come to the understanding, like you sort of touched on a little bit in the beginning too, when you started talking about the law of attraction, how it's not really that. It's not really that we're manifesting things into our reality. What it truly is, we're matching the vibration of the reality that we're going to experience. So that, of course, now, that's sort of how you were doing that. You were having these thoughts, things you might like to have, and you were holding on to that energy, which would be, the vibration. And then you were experiencing it. You were just matching it. You were shifting to that particular dimension of, keeping in mind a dimension is just a state of consciousness. So you were matching that frequency and experiencing it. And that's really what the manifestation really is all about, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a play where I literally attract plays and scripts that answer so many of my questions, and it sort of makes sense because, I really believe that the prophets of our day are the artists, and they put a lot in the work. They encode a lot into the work. And this one play I was in, there was this time traveling sequence where one of the characters says, right now my older self is putting my younger self is putting my young child to bed, my baby to bed. And then in the scene, the baby's like an adult who's like traveled through time. And I definitely have those same experiences that you are describing, where you're tapping into some kind of reality, but it's not manifesting in the physical. Like it's like the dreams. It's just like dreaming, where you have a really strong dream when you're sleeping at night or napping or meditating, and then you come out of that state and you're like, oh my God, did I really text that person, or did I really write that email or get that email, or did I really get fired, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, it was just a dream. But then I mean, there's so many like other potential timelines that I pick up on, and it is very it can be very confusing. I mean, I don't think I've had any I don't have like blackouts, but I notice that sometimes I get like knocked out for like an hour. Like even after talking with you all yesterday night, I needed like 12 plus hours of sleep between our conversation and then some of the other factors going on, like the new year and some other stuff going on in my family. It was like I was knocked out, almost like blacked out, to like kind of like integrate everything. So I guess all those, you were going through a lot of different timelines, and you were just chemicalizing, and you were being called to find a solution to the problem. And now it's very interesting that you're going to be a life coach, so you can help, like you're already helping people with nutrition. You have this unique and fitness, and you have this unique perspective that I've really actually been craving. Like I think that there's really a need for people like you in the nutrition and fitness community. So thank God you're here. Thank God you went through all that. It was not for nothing.
Right. That's funny. Yeah. I absolutely agree that, those scenarios and those circumstances were just stepping stones to bring me to where I am now. Kind of like Cheryl said, where they were all, what's the word? Relevant pieces, to experience, to bring us to where we're supposed to be. Now, the memories that I was having and stuff, it's not like again, it's not like I was able to predict the future. They were just like these alternate scenarios that I have memories of. It's just totally wild. And one of the interesting things too, I did a lot of research on near-death experiences. There's been a lot of people, a lot of studies have shown, and a lot of people are coming out, the woodwork, talking about, their awakening having to do with near-death experiences. Being in a car accident, and being in a coma, and then being in the hospital and seeing themselves on the stretcher, and then understanding, the idea of, creation and the cosmic connectedness that we all have, coming to reality and living in this physical body again. Now, I think in my case, near-death experiences, I believe that's what that was, because when I was having those anxiety attacks, I believed with every ounce of my soul that I was going to die. Like, it was a near-death experience. I was literally, in tears, like, this is it. Like, I'm dead. Like, I'm going to die now. And I was certain that the next thought or the next thing was going to be someone walking in, and I'm going to be dead on the floor. And that happened so many times. So it was very, very, very jarring. And that's just one of the other ways that I can relate to the fact or convey the fact that, an awakening process is destructive. It's not all fun and games. It's not, and even today too. Like yes, I'm incredibly, I like to be stable. And I like to be strong. And I like to help people. And I like to be positive. And there are still other aspects that can be negative, depending on how we look at it, of course. But again, with the idea of being alienated by my family, like being the weird one now. I'm the odd one. you know. And then my friends, like, I don't have any friends, man. Like like there's plenty of people that know me, you know. I mean, but they know me because I'm notorious for certain things. Like I'm covered in tattoo, you know. So I'm the tattoo guy, right, here on Shelter Island. And then, you know, I'm in, not to toot my own horn, but, you know, I'm very fit, you know. So and I would go to the gym and I would run outside and I would be, you know, being very visual, and, you know, then I was known as that fit guy. You know? But nobody really knows me as that spiritual.
Wow.
But they know me as, you know, that, you know, that other guy. So the spiritual part has been something I've kind of like learned to sort of keep, you know, to myself unless they ask. And now, when I was going through the spiritual process, I was blessed because I was able to speak to Cheryl about this stuff. And Cheryl and I spent hours and hours, just countless hours, communicating and talking with one another, and was really able to learn a lot from her experience and what she has told me. And, you know, for a long time, and even still now, I really honestly, I consider Cheryl to be one of my spiritual teachers. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a stage where you and I didn't talk for like a year or 2 years or something, but I still feel, and I fully understand, you know, that we're all connected all the time, no matter what. And I believe that even though you and I didn't speak for 2 years, we were still really speaking, you know, just not in the physical. We're still communicating all the time.
Well, yeah, everybody actually, you know, we're all in this together, and I always think of, like, everybody is like an antenna, and we're all getting our own little piece of the universe. We're downloading it, right? And each person is making another little adjustment in the template, and as we get it from the cosmos, or wherever it may be, whatever celestial body or extraterrestrial technology, we then connect it through the hive mind or the heart mind.
Wow.
The collective, yeah.
And, you know, it's super exciting, and that's what the star seasons are really doing.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's an exciting time to live. I feel like it's very, very exciting, especially with the idea of, you know, coming into the age of Aquarius, where I believe is, you know, ultimately responsible for a lot of the mass awakenings, or the acceleration of awakening of a lot of people. And I do believe that, you know, we are going through some, you know, some transition. We're always going through transition, but I believe now, you know, up until maybe 2025, I think is when things are going to really start to open up and be more. I can't even like describe what I feel like it's going to be like, but more aware of our surroundings, more aware of our spiritual counterparts, you know. And there's been a lot of things that have been directed towards that. A lot of that, even with movies, like there's been movies that have come out in the past, you know, couple of years, you know, just kind of little bit by bit hinting on whether we're talking about, you know, like the movie Stargate, or Jupiter Ascending, you know, there's a lot of truth, or The Matrix. And there's a lot of truth, you know, in those fiction films, you know, because someone thought of that stuff, and that, you know, that in turn means that it exists in a way, you know. So I watched a movie, you know, a little while ago, a couple months ago. It was called Chappie, and it was about the idea of AI being being consciousness, you know. And it makes my heart absolutely sing. Like, I was at a movie theater earlier tonight, watching a new movie that just came out called Mortal Engines. And in one of the scenarios in this movie, amongst many other story arcs in this fucking film, there was a young girl who was raised by a robot, you know. And it was like so fucking touching to me, like almost brought me to tears, you know, and not at the film itself, but just as the idea that we're moving in that direction, you know, that our human, you know, species here is becoming more and more open to the idea, you know, that consciousness, you know, comes in many forms, you know, and everything is in a way experiencing this reality. We're all sharing this reality together. So sort of like I felt the etheric energy in those trees, you know, they're still experiencing time. I believe they have beliefs and they have thoughts, you know. just like animals with thoughts and fears, and they experience confusion, and they experience, just like we do, kind of, just in different ways. They experience time in different ways. They experience our reality, but they're still experiencing it. To the idea of artificial intelligence, of course, we've all heard, Bashar many times say it's not really that. It's not really artificial. True AI is just, it's just consciousness. So.
Wow.
And there's another movie coming out. It's a Transformers movie. It's called Bumblebee. It's one of the there's the Transformers show, and the camaraderie and the relationship. So far, what I got out of the trailer, and the relationship between this robot and this little girl, is. I was watching this. It's a trailer. It's like a blockbuster action film, right? And I'm like, my heart is beating and my heart is singing, and I'm like, my eyes are welling up because I'm so excited for humanity to be more open. And I'm just like loving the idea that every day a little bit more and a little bit more, the general population is being exposed a tiny bit more to compassion in a whole other direction.
That's beautiful.
It is beautiful. It is.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you too. Is there a difference between aesthetic, spiritual, and energetic energy?
Well, kind of. Like everything is energy ultimately, but it's just vibrating at different frequencies. So the phone that you're talking on is energy, and your body is energy, and the walls on the house that you're in is energy. It's the same energy. It's just vibrating at different frequencies. Sort of like ice is vapor, is also water.
Cool.
So, yeah. Well, like electromagnetic energy, or is very much the same as thought energy, as your thoughts. Your thoughts and your hand are the same thing, and they're just vibrating different. So think of it this way: like if you have a fan turned on very high, the blades, they spin really fast, and you can barely see them anymore because it's spinning so fast. But they're still there, sort of at a different frequency. So we come to understand that there's so many things happening all around us right now, and like Bashar says, one of the laws of creation is everything is here and now. So, the past, present, and future is all right now, right fucking on you. So it's kind of a neat thing. And this kind of goes into the idea, of meditation too, and sort of bringing it into what Cheryl was talking about, your heart. So the idea of, the fan being on high, and then the blades of the fan, sort of disappearing from what we can see. If you take like a little pencil or something, throw it at the fan, there's a chance it might pass through, or there's a chance it'll block it, but we can't see it. We can't see it because it's moving too fast. It's vibrating too fast. Now, think of this. I'm going to paint this little picture here too. Let's say I'm standing at a busy street and I'm walking across the street, right? And you're recording me with your phone. I'm taking tiny, tiny little baby steps, very, very, very slowly. Very slowly. And let's say it takes me 8 hours to walk across the street, and you film me for 8 hours taking tiny steps, right? All the other cars are going by and other people are walking past me. Let's say it's that busy street in New York where you live. So when you're playing this video of me walking across the street, you can speed it up a little bit more, and then I'll start walking a little bit faster, and everyone else will be walking even faster and faster and faster. So you turn the speed up more and more and more, until 10 times the normal speed, and I walk across the street regularly. Everyone else disappears. All the cars disappear. All that stuff, you can't perceive it. It's too fast. It's vibrating too fast. It's, so that in a way is sort of how I like to view it, and in relation to meditation, when we go into a deep meditation, we slow down our mind, and we sort of, we look within, and we're able to sort of see beyond the illusion, of continuity, what that really is. And what I mean by that is the idea of shifting through multiple realities a second, having the side effect be, how we experience time. And we can only see that, we can only experience that if we see it with our heart and not our eyes, not our mind. So we close our eyes, we slow down, and then we realize how connected we are, and we realize, everything is not what it seems. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah.
So that's sort of a big reason why meditation has been very, very important to me, to aid in my, I guess, my spiritual evolution, my sort of quiet and recenter and gain where I truly am, and it helps a lot. It's just part of
I practiced meditation for several years, and when I first started practicing, I didn't even know if I was doing it right or what you do, and I think even after about 2 months, then I entered into a state where I literally went completely thoughtless for. Oh yeah, I had thought that she left. Hey, Ansley.
Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to, but
Yeah, it happens. So I was just telling Trent that when I first started practicing meditation, I didn't even really know what I was doing at first, or if I was doing it right. I kind of sat there and was like, what the hell is this anyways? And then after practicing for 2 months, I actually went into a state completely thoughtless, and I realized that I wasn't breathing. I was doing this yoga from a teacher, a certain type of Kriya yoga.
Cool.
Yeah, I ended up, I love the way Yogananda says it. Kriya yoga. Anyways, I wasn't breathing for like 10 minutes, and I didn't even think I needed to breathe. I was like, I better breathe, because
I'm a robot, and I don't need to breathe.
that's what Houdini and those guys were doing when they would go into this state. They practice meditation, they'd go into this state, and they wouldn't need to freaking breathe. They really calm, slowly but surely get those ties off their hands and get up there and breathe. But yeah. So after practicing the meditation for a couple years, I stopped doing it as frequently, or I just would do different things. I actually stopped needing to get into that state, because once I learned how to get into that state, I would use it for the channeling, or I'd use it for the energy work, the breathing, the Kriya yoga stuff. And now I actually don't feel the need to do it at all, because I can I'm meditating in between each word, in between each sentence, every time I do anything. I think that it's just acceptance, and that's really applying acceptance to the circumstances in your life. Because it's easy to sit there and do nothing and be blissful, but when you're out living your life and you're confronted with challenges, and there will be challenges, and so when you're confronted with the challenges, if you can be mindful then, and then another challenge comes on top of that challenge, I'm mindful now too. Accept everything as it happens, and knowing that this is just another thing the universe is doing to get me to go in this direction, so I can end up here, so I can meet this person who's going to give me that idea, triggers this response, so I end up doing this thing. Knowing that everything that happens is for a reason, even if it seems negative. But sometimes the universe doesn't want you to go that way. It's going to drop a boulder on your path and break the bridge or whatever.
Wow, it's such a blessing to be able to have that understanding where you can change your perspective and go with the flow. That's really awesome.
Yeah, because we're always going in the path of least resistance, even if we think that now I have to go the long way because the bridge is out. It's not really the long way. That's still the path of least resistance. And as long as this is something that Bashar says, as long as you trust your higher mind and not try to conceive of everything with the lower mind, because the lower mind is just meant to perceive everything that happens. It's not meant to, only the higher mind is ever conceived of any idea.
Right.
So letting the higher mind, which is unconscious, letting it do its job that it's supposed to do, being along for the ride, observing. Your brain is an antenna.
Right.
It's a receiver.
Yeah.
And you are the perceiver. Your higher mind.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, a lot of times I convey it, and I try to sort of I try to be visual with people. What I like to portray it as, if you picture, one of those scenes of the ice of an iceberg, right? You have, the tip of the iceberg is outside of the water, which is like 10% of it, and then the huge part of the iceberg is underneath the water, right? So the tip of the iceberg is what's experiencing the sky and the clouds and the sun. That's us. That's our lower mind. That's our physical. That's our focus point.
Yeah.
But our subconscious mind is the larger part that is underneath, which is intimately connected to the ocean. Because just like before, when I said that everything is energy, just like ice and water and vapor are all the same thing. So your subconscious mind is spiritually and intimately, emotionally connected to, the universe. So the ocean would be the universe. The bottom of the iceberg would be your subconscious mind, and the tip of the iceberg, the tiny little part at the top, which is having the experience, is your focus, which is your physical awake state.
Well, this I guess since you're talking about it, and I'll address Carl Jung. He came up with a lot of these ideas and the terminologies we're using, such as archetypes, that I love to talk about. And he talks about the subconscious, the unconscious, proto-consciousness. And he explains it like it's under, like it's below, it's lower in like vibration or something. And I think very, 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 very important to start to imagine this being higher, because it's actually higher in vibration.
Yeah.
And so I do like the iceberg analogy. It definitely applies, but I see it upside down.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That is very, very, it's important to try to convey that. Because that's a very common, I guess, misconception. When people hear the word subconscious, they hear like it's, oh, that's when I'm asleep. They're confusing subconscious with unconscious.
Higher in vibration.
But in a way, we're unconscious in our awake state most of the time. I don't know.
Well, just everything exists, and everything that you're not perceiving, everything that you're unconscious to, is in the unconscious, including the universe, including God, including your higher mind, your beliefs. Even when you're dreaming, you're actually in a higher state of vibration. And a lot of times when you're in a higher state of vibration, people think that this is indicative of happiness, but not necessarily, because when your vibration raises and you're in a higher vibration, you're more aware of all the shit.
Awareness, yeah.
And that is your negative beliefs as well. And when nobody likes to see the negative beliefs, what happens when a lot of people see the negative beliefs? They deny. No, not me. It's you, actually. Negative beliefs.
You are making me feel this way. It's because you're a dick, is why I'm happy.
Yeah, so it's definitely.
So you're in my energy field. You just happen to be there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's the gaslighting thing everybody's talking about. That is all just projection. Yeah.
Wow, this was a great talk.
Yeah, there will be many good talks.
Yeah. All right, so for me right now, it's a little bit after 12 o'clock. I really should get going.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to work in the morning and stuff. But this was fantastic. I hope that some people can listen and hear, maybe pick out some of the things that they might need or if they were searching for.
Yeah. And this was our first show, and I'm thinking we cuss a lot in this one, but I want to try to make it a little bit more approachable to all audiences. So I want to maybe on the next one try to eliminate the F-bomb as much as possible, just so people can play this aloud, like in front of their kids and stuff like that.
Right.
So, we're kind of just playing with it, seeing what we want to do. And yeah, so my name is Cheryl. We have Ansley and we have Trent. We're all kind of spiritual entrepreneurs, I guess you could say, in our own ways.
Yeah, definitely.
You're a shaman.
Oh, yeah, did you see that whole thing?
No, I didn't see anything. I just remember what you were talking about the other day, that's all.
Yeah, well, I think shamanism is just an accurate description of like like how we get into like the channeling and the altered states and the meditation, and yeah, we could definitely probably talk about that on the next show, actually.
Yeah, that would be a really interesting topic about because honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, your story, Trent, is very much that of a shaman.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think that could be a really interesting thing to talk about and explore.
Yeah,
in one
I
of the
think it's a
shows.
little bit more. Yeah, people have a lot of preconceived notions about it, but I think it's a little bit more new agey than we think.
Yeah.
And so yeah, if there's anything else you guys would like to say, we can go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for letting me be a part of this. This has been a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the next talk, and then shortly, in the near future, it would be great to see if we could have some guest speakers on with us and convey their experiences and their strengths and their story, so we could grow and expand our consciousness.
Right, and just I think it's just so interesting to hear about your evolution on your path with YouTube. Like first you were looking up one thing, and then you were looking up spiritual teachers and meditation, and it's just a nice thought to think, wow, there might be someone out there who doesn't have anyone to talk to, who needs to have words to make sense of their journey, and that this might be a real answer to someone's prayer, So just thank you both for your honesty and your I really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm really grateful for both of you, ringing in the new year with both of you.
Yeah, that was awesome. Happy New Year.
Little nerds.
Yes. That was special.
Yeah. I remember
we happened to be on the phone with one another.
I remember years ago, like, years would roll around, and that was like time to fucking party. Like that was like my experience. Shitty, especially like in high school. It was like, oh yeah, New Year's, let's get some drugs. But then again, just like I said, we all have different chapters of our lives. Some of them are more glamorous than others. I'm really grateful and enjoying the fact that I got to spend it talking with you guys. It was really, really cool.
Me too. New Year's has always been my favorite holiday, and it just has evolved in what that means. So, yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, we were on the phone last night doing a dress rehearsal for the show. Me and Trent are in the same time zones. He's in New York. I'm in Florida. And we just so happened to all be on the phone together when, I guess you could say, the ball dropped. And none of us really were paying attention, so that was special.
Yeah.
Now we're doing our first show on the 1st.
That's so interesting. It's a trip. More is going to be revealed, I think, about all that.
Power play. More will be revealed. That's right. All right. Well, good night, guys.
Stay tuned for more to be revealed.
All right. Good night, guys.
All right, you guys.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Let's do it. So how are you doing, Trent?
Oh, very well. Thanks so much for letting me hop on and be a part of the show. This is kind of exciting.
Yeah.
it's pretty neat to have an outlet to express our views, thoughts, beliefs, with others, other like-minded people, I guess, too, that are, searching to expand their awareness or expand their consciousness and sort of give the idea to look at circumstances from different perspectives. So thanks again. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I was just telling Ansley we're like the Three Musketeers here. I'm the one that's been doing this so long. I'm kind of like sick of it and just like, meh. Like, it's